Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's session of the QuickSight Learning Series. Today, we're going to talk about what's new in visualizations and filters on QuickSight. We'll be hearing from one of our solutions architects presenting Salim, and then a demo on these features from Niraj.
So in today's session, we'll be learning about what's new with visualizations. We'll be covering the global filters or the cross-sheet filters in an upcoming webinar, as it has not been launched yet, right? So that feature we'll be covering in an upcoming webinar pretty soon. So in today's, we'll focus mostly on what's new with visualizations, what we've launched recently, and going through some of the updates that we have along with the demo, right? So my name is Salim Khan. I'm a senior solutions QuickSight architect at AWS. I also have my colleague Neeraj, who will be presenting with me today. Right. So for the agenda today, we'll do a quick or brief introduction about Amazon QuickSight for folks who are new. We'll dive deep into all the new visualization updates. That is the new KPI experience, the unified colors for fields. We'll show how to freeze, unfreeze columns for tables. We'll dive deep into showing you how we have added the contextual row subtotals for pivot tables. Some Textbox updates. We'll go through some of the flexibility added on the total positioning for pivot tables, right? And also the custom total values that provide different aggregations on the subtotals and total levels. We'll also go through the control description, how we added feature for the control description, the small multiple reference line support for now the line and the bar chart. And then we'll end off with the custom week start and the custom time zones that a lot of customers have been asking for. We just recently launched that feature also. Okay. And then once I go through the deck, Neeraj will do a live demo of all the features that we will be basically discussing in the next few minutes, right? And then sign off with the references and post your questions to the community, and we'll be taking a look at all those questions throughout the day, okay, answering them as we could get time. Moving on to the first slide. So a brief introduction of QuickSight for folks who are new, right? So QuickSight is a unified BI service that delivers modern dashboards for interactive analytics, paginated reports for agreed upon formats of data like PDF and Excel, embedded analytics for consuming insights directly in applications, and also Q for natural language query or asking questions, right? So organizations can consolidate and migrate away from maintaining multiple legacy BI systems for different needs, right? Therefore, eliminating complexity, right? So we're looking at this in a unified BI service at hyperscale, right? QuickSight is built with builders in mind. So whether you are a BI analyst or a developer, we enable you to get to your analysis done very quickly and delivered anywhere efficiently, right? QuickSight is purpose-built on a serverless architecture, right? That scales efficiently and instantly to whether it's tens or hundreds or even thousands of users, right? With no software servers to install or to manage, customers can lower cost by eliminating investments in unnecessary resources, right? And with usage-based pricing, customers reduce spend by simply paying for what they use, right? No long-term contracts, no hidden costs for extra servers, right? So that's QuickSight in a nutshell. Moving on to the first feature that we have, that is the KPI experience, right? We're taking a fresh look at the KPIs in our product, right? KPIs are one of the most widely used visuals on a dashboard. So you will see a couple of new things now, a couple of different layouts, as well as things like including a spark line or a spark line area chart that can view the trend information that goes along with the value itself, right? So new updates to the KPI layouts. Moving on to the next one, Neeraj. Okay, we take a look at the unified field-based color. So a lot of customers have been asking us to be able to easily reflect the different colors that are there on the visuals, that they're uniform if there are certain dimensions or members of a particular field. The same colors appear across all visualizations within the dashboard, right? So you'll see a quick demo of that. Moving on to the next, right? You will see more flexibility with pivot tables now. A lot of features got added to the pivot tables recently. Some of them basically are the contextual row subtotals, in which you will be able to specify or append group names for row subtotals, right? And it's very easy to understand, aiming to maintain the context while you're scrolling, right? We've added a couple of features for the total and subtotal positioning, So we can configure the total and subtotal for rows at the top or bottom. Okay, and for the columns, basically you can do it left towards the left or towards the right. Okay, we added some custom aggregation to the total field itself, right? So more flexibility with the total definition itself, right? You can automatically now even hide collapse row headers or fields within pivot tables in a tableau layout. Okay, and also the compact layout, but that was launched a couple of weeks back. But Neeraj will be demoing both the layouts, even the tableau and the compact layout also. So a lot of flexibility added to the pivot tables in the recent times, right? Neeraj, moving on to the next one. Along with the pivot tables, there's a little bit more interactivity now added to the tables also. The customers were requesting us for a feature like Excel-like feature like freeze or unfreeze columns, right? So we now be able to freeze a single column or even multiple columns on the table visual itself. Okay, next. And then we'll take a quick look at how to specify the time zone and even the week start, custom week start for your dashboards, right? So you can customize the calendar to fit your location and for your industry needs, right? For international customers, they will have flexibility to specify different time zones also, right? So we'll take a look at that. Okay. And a couple of enhancements that were added a little earlier this year were also based on some advanced access configuration for small multiples, right? So you can actually configure shared and independent access per panel, whether it's inside or outside the access label placements for both, right? So you have a lot of flexibility configuring the panels for the small multiples. And we also added how to configure the shared or the independent access for the radar charts. These were added a little before, like a couple of months before, but just wanted to highlight that these features are also there now as part of the new visualizations. Okay, moving on to the next. Okay, we've recently launched the pixel-based font size for the text box updates, right? So now in a text box, you'll be able to specify the font size as a pixel, and you'll also be able to highlight the text behind uh, in the text box also, right? So pixel-based fonts are now live. Okay, so with this, I will pass on the button to Neeraj. Neeraj will do a deep dive on the demo. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the community and we'll be answering them. Neeraj, over to you.
Thank you, Salim. Now moving on to our demo part. So let me just get into QuickSight and showcase these visualization features that we have launched, and Salim has brought up all these pointers with you. So starting with the very first one is the new KPI. So as Salim has highlighted, so we have recently introduced a range of exciting enhancements to the KPI visual. This includes like you can have the templated KPI layout. You can support, it has a support for the spark lines, improvements in conditional formatting, and you can revamp the format pane. So like on this particular analysis sheet, on this particular sheet, what we have created, I have the two examples here, and these are two different layouts. How you can do it is within the KPI, when you go and create your KPIs, you might have seen these, the standard layout before, but now we have recently added the layout section here. So you can opt for whatever respective layout you wanted to address to. So there are two examples as you see, right? So this is one example for the first layout. And then we have similarly a second layout where you can show the percentage with the spark line in. Moving on, like as I called it out, like you have a revamped format pane. So if you open the format pane now, you would see all the primary values, the secondary values. You can have the fonts and everywhere, like you can set up what secondary value it was. Some of these were there before, but we have stacked them in a more formatted way. Also to highlight, right? So you have since now visuals. Initially, we had just the progress bar earlier, but now we have three different options. So the two sparkline and area sparkline has been added recently. So for example, in this one, I wanted to have a progress bar, so I can change it to progress bar, or I can change it to the line bar, sparkline. I can address to that, or I can have the area sparkline. So that's more of like new KPI with a multiple layouts. There are two different layouts that we have provisioned. So you can have the spark lines now as part of a KPI visuals. The second change, the second visualization or example I wanted to put together, we have put together is for the unified colors. So again, with the field level coloring, you can basically assign specific colors to specific field values across all your visuals in QuickSight analysis, or you can do it on dashboards. So these colors are assigned on a per field basis to simplify your process of setting the colors and also to ensure the consistency across all your visuals that you use the same field. So in an example here, let's say we have enterprise, SMB, and strategic, these are the three different values as part of my segment field. Now I can open up within my field list, I can go into my segment in my field and I can define what my field colors should be. So in this case, I have three different colors laid out. So for example, if I wanted to change a specific ones, I can definitely make the change to it. And then when I apply it, so what it would do is it will not only apply to this particular um, visual where I'm making the change, also it will apply to across because it's at the field level. So when I apply it, you might see now it is. So this is more, this is how you can ensure the consistency across all your visuals for a given field, right? So this gives you more unified color experience for your fields. Moving on to another examples as we have discussed about. So one of the scenario, one of the feature that we have is for the data bars. Again, you can use the data bars basically to add more visual context to your table visuals. And you can add a color into your tables, and data bars can make it more easy to visualize, and you can compare data in a range of fields. So in this case, we have a profit. We can easily see how many values have on the lower side versus how many are we have a positive profits, right? And likewise, you can add easily data bars for your respective measures. And how you can do it is basically you can go into the format visuals in this example, and I can go into visuals. And let's say I have already a data bars for sales and profit, and I want to add for profit margin. I can go to add data bar and pick what my field is and define what my color should be, right? In this case, let's say I wanted to define as a blue color for positive feedbacks, and I can do it. So you might see now the data bars has been added. So now bars are basically measured relative to the range of all your cells in a single column, and which is similar to your bar chart. So give more visual appeal. The second scenario on this particular sheet is more on to show you the control descriptions. So you might be creating a lot of controls for your end users to basically pick up the values and selects, but there are scenarios where business wants to know like what this relates to and from where this particular attributes are coming from. So if in case there is a particular information you wanted to add or you wanted to be more descriptive on your controls, you can easily do it now. So you can go and edit your controls, and you can definitely provide more context to you can add more info on your control. So this will highlight to the end users when they hover around on the control descriptions, right? So giving more context to the your end users. Now let's get into another set of features that we launched specifically to freeze the columns. One column could be multiple columns. Now here, let's say in this particular example, I have a table created, a detailed table created where I have certain fields being provided to me, to the end users, but I wanted to give end users a flexibility, or maybe I wanted to freeze a particular column. So let's say I have an order date, which is second column in the order. But as soon as I do and pick up that particular column and say freeze columns, it becomes my primary column. And now as the end user, if I share it, if I publish it as a dashboard, the end users can scroll around and this particular column is freezed. Same way you can pick set of multiple columns as well. You can do that, or you can set up the freeze up to a certain columns. So for example, I wanted to make sure the customer ID, product, contact name are all freeze. I can specifically pick up this field and say freeze up to this column. Now, as I scroll towards the end users can do it, they can just scroll around and they would see that all my first four columns are freezed. And same way, I can unfreeze the columns or unfreeze all columns, right? So it gives more flexibility to end users as they scroll through and look into multiple attributes, multiple columns within the table. Moving on with a new set of features that we have launched for pivot tables. So one of the key features that we launched was for hierarchy layout, right? So again, this is more to do with the space optimizations to save on more real estate. So one of the example is like now as part of your format visual, when you go in and when you expand your pivot sections, you would see there are two different options. Hierarchy is your default options. You can switch it to a tabular format, and you would see now my region, industry, all these columns, all my rows are highlighted here, and same way all my columns are there as well. I can expand them. As I expand them, my product column appears. There's a associated to tabular, you have a hide collapse columns, so which is checked here. What if I unchecked, and what will, if I collapse this particular column, you would see my product column still remains there. If I collapse region until up to a region, you would see industry and product columns are still there. And this is where I can hide all the collapse columns. So you would see now as all my columns are, as I collapse them, my columns also are collapsed. They are also hidden. And I expand them. So let's say I go into specifically at a product level. Now my product column will appear. You can switch it to hierarchy layouts, and this gives you more hierarchy layouts as expected. And there's a lot of flexibility around in that. So for example, you can hide or collapse to a specific hierarchy. So for example, if I wanted to collapse at a regional level or all level, I can collapse them. If I wanted to expand, and let's say I wanted to expand at the industry, the users can do it now. They can expand it to a specific at the industry level, right? So it gives you more features. And also to highlight in the tabular layout, you might see that you have hide collapse column, but also we can have a more you can also you can hide the white space here. So that's another feature to highlight it. So you can basically get rid of your multiple hide white spaces here. Moving on to another feature that we launched is default column width. So as of now, you see that there's some column width is being specified. You can easily go into your cells and then specify at the column level that what your column width should be. So right now it is mixed, but you can specify, let's say I wanted to specify as more of a 90 as my column width. I can specify that and you would see it has changed. I can also expand it to view. So I can set up, so by default, it has taken into account 120. If I wanted to adjust somehow, I can make those column width, so I can specify what my pixel level should be. So it gives you more flexibility to, again, set up your column width for your pivot table. These are more for pivot tables. Now let's get into some of the other features that we have launched. And here coming to for pivot tables again, the very first one to highlight is the contextual row subtotals, right? You might see now I have subtotal MR coming in, and that is more of the label that comes in from my context here, since region is my hierarchy. And then same way I can change that the way my contextual row subtotal looks like here. How do I do that? I can go into format pane, and let's say I wanted to go into subtotals and I wanted to change that. So let's say I wanted to call it out as subtotal, and before that I wanted to add a label or the contextual label. I can use my prefix labels here. It gets prefixed with that, and then I can highlight how I want it to. And then you might see now with that change, it shows me the MR subtotal, right? So you can always have a contextual row subtotal. So within America, you might see that my subtotal appears. Same way when I expand it to technology, it takes into account what my which particular dimension I've expanded, and it shows me a text subtotals taking into account this particular context. So this is how you can add a contextual row subtotal, and you can customize that based on how you wanted to set it up. Also, if you are basically, if you wanted to hide that particular column and you wanted to have more white space, let's say I don't want a region here, I can also go and hide the region. You might see that contextual row subtotal still appears because your region is the first level in the hierarchy, which you have hidden it. So you can easily do that way also to get rid of the white spaces and optimize more space on your pivot tables here. The another comes in the custom totals. So that's also we have launched it recently. So what you can do with the contextual, so with the custom totals is like, for example, here I'm showing the profit and then sales, let's say. And just taking an example here, I wanted to take the sales as an average. I can always, so it shows me all my sales, but at my total, it gives me an option here. So I can add at the total, it's by default sum, but I can average it out. So you might see it might change to an average value, and that's what it is. Now, if there's a need for any particular measure you are creating and you want to show in a total and average, you can very well do it now. Same way it provides you options to set it. Default is the sum, but you can average, max, or min, and that's how you can change, you can customize your totals. Another key highlight is on row and column total positioning. So again, in your when you expand your totals now, you might see all my totals is being positioned at the bottom, and all my column totals are towards my right. How I can change it? I have an option now, so I can change it to top. My totals will appear at the top now, and then same way all my column subtotals can also change. So I can change the position of it from right to left, and that's how it appears. So there's a flexibility here now, how you wanted to show your totals for your rows and the columns as well. Another thing to highlight is we had a t-shirt size formatting options for our text visual. So now as you add a text now, you would be able to change the fonts and specify what your font type is, and you can specify what your font size would be, giving you more flexibility to add more notes and highlights or any formatting that you wanted to put at more of a textual notes. So that's more for total subtotals and some of these changes. Lastly, to cover on the small multiples references here, again, now when you need to set multiple comparative visuals in a row, and this is where you can use a small multiples features, as Salim has highlighted. It has been launched a while back, so you might be using it. But one key feature as part of this small multiples, what we have added recently is a reference line. So you can customize as reference lines. It's more calculated now. This is more like it has created a container or shelf of small visuals, and it is all presenting it side by side. So in this example, how I have a segments, and I'm showing all my industry, small multiples for my industry, and for each and every visual within each and every small multiple, I am showing it by segments and showing my sales per segment. So now this is where my reference line goes in. I can set up my reference lines. So within the section of reference lines, you have an options to add your reference lines where you can say what my calculation should be. So you want it to show as an average, or you want it to show as a min, max, or percentile. You can define that. And within that, you can specify what your pattern should look like, what your color should be. So this is what you can, and how your label should be, and whether you want it to show as the same as axis, and what your font size is. So these are more formatting options or more flexibility around to add your reference line for your small multiples. Lastly, to cover another key features that we have launched is on the custom week start and the time zone, right? So earlier you might be doing it using a calculated fields. You can address any of your use case with a custom week start and time zones, but we have now added it as part of a feature. So you can go into settings and then expand the analytics settings. And you would see that there are two options here. So one is like you can differently as an author, you can set up what your time zone should be for a given dashboard. So whether, let's say, you have specifically, you wanted to define Pacific or Eastern time zones. So based on your use case and based on the nature of time zone location of your choice, you can pick and you can set it up for your users. All your calculated fields will address to this particular time zone. Similarly, you might have noticed that by default, the start of the week is Sunday. But if you have users based out of Europe or any other geographic locations where you have a need of to customize that and you wanted to make, say, let's say your users are in Europe and you wanted to make the start of the week as Monday, now you can set it up as that start of the week, and then that will flow through it. So these are currently more for author. You can, as an author, you can apply those settings for your custom week start and time zones and publish that as a dashboard, and users will see all your dates with respect to that time zone and whatever your start of the week is being set up, configured within your analyses, they would be able to see on the dashboard, right? And they would be able to access that. So these are the new features and new visualization features that we have added. As Salim has called it out, we are also going to launch some of the features on the filter sides, like something on the cross filter sheets or a global filters. And we will have a webinar upcoming shortly as the feature gets GA'd.